Hey everyone, welcome to Talk of the Town. This is a podcast where we talk about all things media, creators, business, and more. My name is Tristin. I'm the host of the podcast. If you're your first time listening to the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're returning from previous episodes, thank you so much for tuning back in and listening to new episodes of the podcast. Now, in this episode, what we're going to be talking about are two specific things. I've had a lot of people sending to me on social media wanting me to get my thoughts on it. And also, this is something that I myself have seen across my Twitter and my Instagram timeline and through different news outlets. And I thought I would cover it on the podcast because there is certainly a lot of juiciness in both of these topics that we're going to be talking about. Now, the first one has to do with Netflix, and more specifically, a really controversial comment, I would say, that's being made by Ted Sarandos, who is one of the co-CEOs over at Netflix, about the cancellation of fan favorite shows. Now, obviously, Netflix has been the dominant player in streaming and entertainment for the last 5 to 10 years. Let's be honest. And there's so many shows that you can point to that are really amazing out there, right? That have been able to generate a cult following, get really high with critics, and win awards, and just really define genre and scripted programming within the realm of Hollywood. However, recently in this article with Bloomberg, the CEO of Netflix, Ted Sarandos, basically came out and said that a lot of these shows that were canceled were never successful. And he specifically said, and I quote, a lot of these shows were well intended but talked to a very small audience on a very big budget. The key to it is you have to be able to talk to a small audience on a small budget and a large audience at a large budget. If you can do that well, you can do that forever. Now, the reason why this irked a lot of different people is because if you look at the rate of Netflix shows that are getting canceled, it is astronomically high. That a lot of Netflix shows get one or two seasons and then get the axe, right? And these are shows that you can look at, like, for instance, all the Marvel Netflix shows that either got, two or, in the case of Daredevil, 3 seasons. You can look at other shows like The Midnight Club, The OA, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, Fate the Winx Saga, Gentrified, The Babysitters Club, and also even more recently, shows out there like 1899, which was from the creators of Dark, and so many other shows, right? Because a lot of people are mad with these cancellations, given that these shows had a cult following, a positive critical score, scoring renewals before getting axed, and really, it's sort of a very interesting thing to see, right? And while I don't think that Ted Sarandos is wrong in saying, some of these things, I think his heart and his viewpoint are not necessarily, uh, you know, um, computing one missing part of that, and that being the fans of these shows and these, uh, fandoms and universes of different types of content, right? Because the thing is that a lot of these shows are getting canceled before they're being given a chance to be successful, and also taking into account that sometimes online fandoms are promoting these shows more than Netflix is, and Netflix isn't really necessarily doing as much as they should be, right? And I think as well, this is why you've seen a lot of people who, even when a Netflix show comes out, they go, I'm going to wait till the end of this show to watch it, right? I'm not going to get invested immediately off the bat, knowing that this show could get canceled after its first season or maybe even after its second season, right? And um, this has ultimately created a problem for Netflix, where I think that a lot of people really are going to have to choose where they want to watch their content, right? Now Netflix is keeping around some of its bigger shows, like Stranger Things is set up for one more season, and then the creators of that are doing more content. You look at Wednesday, which recently just came out and got renewed for season two, even though it could have been canceled and moved over to Amazon Prime Video. But let me know what you guys think. Is Netflix screwing up by canceling a lot of these shows? Do you think what they're doing is cannibalizing themselves and really trying to save face with online audiences and things of that nature? Let me know on social media what you guys think about that. Now, before we get into our second topic, I want to talk about the sponsor for the podcast in this episode, that being Maybe. Maybe is a financial platform that is allowing you to track all your accounts, whether it be cash, crypto, stocks, funds, all in one place, simulate scenarios, get advice from qualified financial advisors on how to do certain different things, as well as being able to simulate your financial future to figure out all the different things that you want to do, whether it is retiring at a certain time, planning for a big moment, accounting for changes, and everything in between. That Maybe is the platform for you. I am personally an investor in the company because I love what this company is doing and trying to help people make themselves better financially. So if you're someone that really wants to take control of your financial future, go and sign up for Maybe. That is MAYBE.co. It is free for you to try out, and I really think a lot of you will like it. Now, with that being said, let's move on to our second topic. And this has to do with some news coming out of HBO Max, primarily surrounding around two of its most beloved and fan favorite shows, Titans and Doom Patrol. The announcement coming out earlier this week that Titans and Doom Patrol will be ending with their current and fourth seasons on HBO Max. Now, there was an article in the Hollywood Reporter that basically talked about this, and sources say that producers on both Titans and Doom Patrol saw the writing on the wall amid all the changes with DC Entertainment and plotted their current seasons with a proper ending to not leave fans in a lurch. And that is the news coming out from the Hollywood Reporter. Now, ultimately, these are shows that have been around for quite some time, actually. Titans was the first show that was originally on DC Universe back in 2017, with then Doom Patrol being spun off straight to series in 2018, and they've actually been on HBO Max since then, right? And part of the reason why these shows are essentially ending, is like I mentioned, there are both changes at HBO Max and also at DC, with James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over at DC. The duo there is plotting to basically create shows that are more integrated with films and television, very similar to what Marvel is doing. And basically, also, many were planning on this show ending, before their arrival as well, right? So this is something that was sort of in the plans and, basically kind of being put into fruition eventually right now. As for the HBO Max side of things, it's because the platform is getting ready to be integrated with Discovery Plus under a new name, and they've been dumping content faster than anything, trying to basically save $3 billion in costs and better define what streaming looks like under Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, part of this also, and I think is a really interesting thing, and this has to do with Greg Berlanti, one of the biggest producers in Hollywood, right? Is that he has been involved with Doom Patrol and Titans basically from the beginning. And these shows ending see his roster of scripted shows dwindling, right? If you consider the fact that last year, a lot of his shows got canceled on the CW, like Batwoman, Legends of Tomorrow, and some others. Right now, his roster of DC shows only include The Flash, Superman and Lois, and Gotham Knights. Potentially as well Green Lantern for HBO Max. And it's said by the Hollywood Reporter that he is not expected to be heavily involved moving forward with any programming for DC Comics under a new deal that he just within the last couple of weeks signed. And I think that's kind of crazy, first off, right? The fact that these shows are getting canceled, or not canceled, but more ending, um, is sort of prematurely. I'm sure that these, showrunners and producers would have loved to kept the show going for more than just their 4 seasons. I think is kind of upsetting, right? I do think it is great that fans are at least getting a proper series finale to both of these shows, and hopefully everything goes well for these shows, right? Given the fact that they are getting these proper endings and being told about things, right? As far as other things go with HBO Max and DC as a whole, I'm intrigued to see what happens with HBO Max and what it turns to be when Discovery Plus and HBO Max merge sometime this spring under a different name. And it'll be interesting to see what programming is moved over, what programming gets taken off and given to others. If there will be any reversing on the tax writing off that Discovery has said is over for Warner Brothers Discovery. I think it'll be really interesting. And as for DC, I am sort of torn on the direction that DC is heading by going in a more integrated and interconnected universe of television shows and films, because I think what we've been seeing with Marvel, right, is that with Phase 4 having these TV shows and movies connecting to each other, forcing audiences to watch shows in order to go into the films and things of that nature, it hasn't been necessarily working out. There's been a lot of problems with the quality versus the quantity that has been, happening under Phase 4. And ultimately, I think one of the things that made DC so great over the last decade was that the films were separate from the TV shows. The TV shows, whether it was on DC Universe and then HBO Max, or even on the CW with the Arrowverse, or other platforms out there like broadcast television and Netflix and so forth, was all these shows were never connected directly to the films. They weren't, in the same universes. And I think it was for the better. So let me know what you guys think. Are you saddened to see these shows ending? Are you happy that they're at least getting a proper series finale when the time comes? What do you think the future of HBO Max and DC look like? Let me know on social media. Now, with that being said, guys, this is the end of the episode for the podcast. Hopefully, you did enjoy this episode. If you guys did, make sure to leave a like and also share the podcast with your friends, families, social media feeds, whatever the case may be. As well, if you want to follow the podcast on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, that being Talk of Town Pod. Also, we have a merch store set up for the podcast on Fourth Wall, which will be in the show notes. I really would appreciate it if you guys go and check out and possibly buy some of the merch. It is really amazing, and I love the company that we're doing our merch with, that being Fourth Wall, which is actually set to be a guest spoiler on the podcast in the coming weeks and so forth. So, with that being said, everyone, my name is Tristan. Hope you do enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see all of you in the next one.